Summer Games Fest is almost here, so before we dive deep into all the newest exciting reveals for upcoming games, I think now is a good time to look back on the last year of games, and more specifically, all of the games I looked at from last year's Summer Games Fest to see if they actually released, and if they were indeed good, mid, or bad. And for the games that didn't release, where are they? Also, we'll be checking in to see if I was indeed able to predict their quality. Also, because this is the second year I'm doing this, I'm also going to be able to compare the showcases with their 2023 counterparts to see if, more of their games came out, and if the quality of games that did release improved or decreased. One thing before we get into this behemoth of the video, last year I kind of failed to explain how I ultimately decided if a game was indeed good, mid, or bad. So let's get started, and we will start where we started with last year with the Sony State of Play. They started their Summer Games Fest with, they started with Concord. I mean, technically this game reviewed in the mixed to average score from critics. I could take the point here for correctly guessing that, but I'm not going to. The disaster of this launch puts this game in a league of its own. Kind of funny that this was their flagship game that they went with for this showcase, but it is dead and gone, and a dead game is not a game, so this is a bad. God of War Ragnarok did indeed come to PC, and it was well received. Dynasty Warriors Origins, I actually reviewed this one at the start of the year, and I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. Link in the description if you want to check that out, as well as links to other relevant videos that come up. I loved this game, and it is sitting somewhere near my top games of the year so far. The critics and general audiences seem to like it as well, which gives me joy to hear. It is an expensive game though, so maybe wait and get it on sale. Infinity Nikki, I actually did give this game a shot and I kind of hated it. I talked about this one briefly in my end of year recap video, but the game seems fine, but the gacha mechanics were really gross. Especially as this game seems to be aimed at a younger audience. Look, I must be in the minority here because this one had a generally positive reception on release. Ballad of Anatra is not out yet. News on this game has been pretty sparse since last year. There was an extended gameplay video released in September, but there has been to no other news about the game. Man, I totally forgot that Sony had Marvel Rivals in their showcase last year. Yeah. Look, Marvel Rivals was a breakout hit, pretty much solidifying itself as the de facto hero shooter. Not that it really had much opposition with Overwatch 2, kind of trying not to shit itself every couple of months with their questionable designs decisions, and then Concord releasing and then dying before Marvel Rivals even launched, so... Where Winds Meet has not released yet, but it held an open beta on May 16th where we got to see a little bit more footage of it. It looks okay. The Until Dawn remake launched on October of 2024 and it sits at a mixed rating, although it does trend more towards positive than negative. A lot of the problems seem to stem from a bad performance, glitches, and the price of the game. Fuck me, is that expensive for a remake of a game that is not even a decade old? For some reason, there's also an Until Dawn movie that also came out and that looked pretty bad. Path of Exile 2 did eventually release into early access after many delays, and it was looking fairly positive until some update came out that seemed to piss everyone off for whatever reason. Someone in the comments might be able to explain this one. This shit is kind of too dense for me. The Silent Hill 2 remake came out in October and went on to become one of the best games of the year, which seems to have sparked a reinvigoration in the franchise because Konami were really quick to announce a completely new Silent Hill project not long after this one took off. Monster Hunter Wilds. This one is a bit tricky. The general consensus on this game is that it seems to be pretty good if you're playing it on console, but if you're playing it on PC, it becomes like a completely different story. The story being one of completely awful performance and optimization, crashing issues that still haven't been fixed as of date of recording. This is going into mid, not that it really matters because the game sold gangbusters, and everyone who wanted this game probably already has it. The only thing I'm really doing here is depriving myself of points. Astrobot released and became Game of the Year 2024 at the Video Game Awards. I mean, from the trailer, it looked good, but I never thought it would be that good. I still haven't managed to get my hands on this game yet. Again, the price of a PS5 is a little too pricey to play the one exclusive game that I want to play on that console. I'm hoping this year they might announce a PC port because I would totally buy a PS5 controller just for this game, just not the PS5 itself. That's it for Sony. So out of the 12 games I looked at last year, 10 of them released, although one of them was such a failure that it got shit canned. Of those 10 games, 6 of them had a pretty good reception, while the other 3 were leaning more towards mixed, but those mixed games were more positive than negative, and yeah, the last one being Concord, which if it were still playable today would be sitting mixed, but it's dead, and yeah, a dead game isn't a game, so I'm chucking it in the bad tier. Now, if we compare this to 2023's Sony Showcase, these stats are a major improvement, especially when it comes to actually releasing the games that they announced. Last year, Sony had 17 games to show with only 7 of them releasing, so we already have a much better showing with games actually releasing. As for my score, I managed to guess 5 out of 10 correct, which puts me at about 50%, which, it's not great. Moving on to the Summer Games Fest main event. They started their event off with Horizon Zero Dawn, the Lego game. I forgot that this game came out, and I also forgot the reason that I thought this game was going to be good, because apparently it's pretty mid. The general sentiment around this one is that it is geared much towards a younger audience than people were expecting, and the gameplay is kind of way too simple for an older audience to really kind of enjoy and connect with. No More Room in Hell 2 is a video game that released in the year 2024. I reviewed it and I hated it. It was a severe disappointment to the people who thought they were getting a well-crafted sequel to a game that they loved, and a disappointment to the people who are a fan of Torn Banner, the studio that made the game. The reason this is at mid and not bad though is because the developers have been working on this game and have been updating it pretty frequently. The general consensus is that quality of the game is gradually turning around, although they still have an extreme amount of work to do before I would ever try it again. Quidditch Champions launched into initially pretty decent reception on Steam, but that has dipped over time to mixed. I'm guessing this one is dying, I'm not 100% sure. Cuff Bust is not out yet with no release date in sight. The developer's Twitter is pretty active though. I expect there is a good chance we will see this one again this year. Star Wars Outlaws, hey, I reviewed this one too. It launched to some pretty middling reviews, mine included. I never thought this game was outright bad, but it could be better. That being said, this game barely skirts the line into positive territory, and it does seem like the developers have been working on this one to make it a little bit better over time as well. Never! I was never in doubt that this was going to be a good game. Look, my entire commentary of Black Myth Wukong last year was sad monkey. Look, I don't even need to research this yet. Like, people love this game. Space Marine 2 came out and was very well received. I always thought it was going to be pretty good, but it kind of blew my expectations out of the water. This game is fucking fantastic. I put Metaphor ReFantasio as mid. I don't know what the hell I was thinking here. I can't deny that the trailers for this Batman VR game were just really awful, and that's why I thought, what ended up being one of the best VR games of 2024 was going to be bad. Tears of Metal, or Tears of Metal, I still don't know yet. It has not currently got a release date, but they have just had an open beta last month. Unfortunately, I was a bit too busy to try it out, but I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it next time it shows up. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, I also reviewed this one last year. Yeah, it was good. The game probably isn't worth the price anymore because the state of multiplayer is pretty dismal and the story mode isn't really that great. I personally wouldn't get this one unless it's on sale. Delta Force Hawk Ops, now just Delta Force, released in December and was apparently pretty mid, as well as their crossover DLC with the 24-year-old movie Black Hawk Down. What? I don't know why I tend to bet against fighting games doing well so much. Fatal Fury released last month to a pretty decent reception, and I think it's a safe bet to ignore my opinions on any fighting games, unless it's multiverses. Oh, would you look at that? We have our next dead live service game. Battle Crush released at some point, but it was dead and gone as of November 28th. Shame, I guess. Alright, we have 6 games from Blumhouse. Only one of the 6 games have released, and that was Fear the Spotlight, which was well received, with the other 5 games that they showed not releasing, and I'm not sure what's going on with them. The new Power Rangers game released in December and didn't do too great, which is a bit of a bummer. Deer and Boy, no news and no release date. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a good sequel to the best game that I never played, and I probably won't play this either, but I'm glad people liked it. Slitterhead came out and failed to make a huge impact on the gaming industry. This game didn't tend to score greatly with critics, but the average player reception pushes this one into positive. Killer Bean, this game has not released yet, and it's probably a good thing it hasn't, because when it does, gaming will have peaked, and then it's just going to be all downhill from there. No news on a release date yet, but probably might show up again this year. Can, the game about the angry girl climbing a mountain. I thought this game had came out, but it hasn't. There is a demo and buzz around this one has been pretty good, but no release date other than a vague 2025. Wonder Stop. This game took out one of my best in show slots last year and it lived up to the hype. This was exactly the game that I wanted it to be. And I'm so glad the reception from the general player base shares the same kind of feelings that I do. I'll leave a link to my review in the description of the video. The First Descendant. The review section of this game is really weird because a lot of the reviews are from people who have hundreds to thousands of hours, giving it positive and negative reviews for almost the exact same reasons. Fun combat, shit microtransactions, lack of a really good endgame. The Among Us TV show didn't come out yet, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have just forgotten its existence, so I don't know why they bothered even showing it. I still remember the times when Sonic games were just not good. There's like a period of like 15 years where every Sonic game that came out was just absolute dog water. Even though it seems like Sega finally has a handle on this IP again, I just cannot bring myself to look at any new Sonic game with anything but skepticism. So yeah, it is a surprise that Sonic and Shadow Generations was like almost universally beloved. This franchise deserves good games. Dune Awakening is slated for a June 11th release, and I actually did play the beta for this one that came out a few weeks ago, and I almost made a video about it. I'm just gonna TLDR my experience real quick. I think the survival aspects of the game are really good. I like that the actual collecting of resources in this game is a little different to the usual, punch a tree and mine rock, just like one click over and over again. Like there's a bit of like more interactivity to it. The game is beautiful, but the combat is kind of ass. The MMO part of the game is a bit of an unknown element to me because the server that the game plopped me on had like one other player that I encountered, and I didn't really get much further than the first area of the game. If this game was maybe $30 cheaper, then I think this would be an instant buy for me, but because it's $75 Australian, I'm not sure I'm going to take the risk on this one. And look, I'm never a fan of the buy the deluxe edition of a game to get an early access kind of deal that some games do. Even less so on an MMO where there is just a clear advantage to players who get to go in early and just be 5 days ahead of the general populace that doesn't want to spend the extra $30. So a few days ago on Saturday the 24th of May, the developers of Battle Aces posted on their Steam blog that development of this game has been cancelled. It's hard to say what happened here because all of the socials have the same statement copy and pasted. I've heard nothing but good things about this game, and even though I personally was not at all excited about this game, it sucks to see a game that looked like it had some love and passion put behind it just killed before it could get into the hands of a wider player base. The Night Springs DLC for Alan Wake 2 were well received. The game is not out yet on Steam. In fact, we are getting the next Remedy game on Steam before Alan Wake 2, which is kind of sad. Like I said last year, let me buy this game on Steam and let it sit on my backlog forever unplayed in my Steam library instead of my Epic library, which I forget exists for months at a time. It's hard to tell if the new version of New World was received well or not because there is a lot of holdover reviews from the old version of the game. The recent reviews on Steam are still pretty mixed, so we'll just go with that. Hyper Light Breaker is another game that made my best in show last year and was one of my most anticipated games for this year. And as you can see, this one turned out to be pretty mixed, which is much better than what it was sitting at during its first week of launch. The common sentiment with this game is that it is not good, but in the 5 months since it has released, it has improved by a lot, but it still isn't there yet. I believe with some time it will get there. I still haven't played more than 20 minutes of the game, and personally I'm not interested in playing it until it's in a better state. Skate is not out yet. It's supposedly meant to get an early access release sometime this year, and I have a feeling it might be sooner than we think. This is a game that I just have this weird feeling will get shadow dropped one day. I'm not going to give Valorant on console a score because I don't know how to judge if this was a success or not. Not enough reviews have reviewed it, and I have not heard of a single soul playing this game on console, so yeah. Let me know if you played Valorant on console. Is it good? Is there even a player base playing it? Squad Busters, I think this one has to go into mid. Again, this is a mobile game and App Store ratings can barely be trusted. 3.3 out of 5 on Android and a 4.5 out of 5 on Apple paints two very different pictures. Metacritic reviewers put it at a 73 out of 100, while the user scores are at 4.8. I'm putting this in mixed, but it probably deserves bad because that trailer from last year was just the fucking worst. Phantom Blade Zero has not released, and it seems like news outlets have been getting hands-on previews with this one as recently as this week, so I expect more news on this one going into the next Summer Games Fest. Jeff Fest ended up with 25 out of the 40 games shown last year actually releasing. Out of the 25, we had 14 of them being good, 9 of them being mid, and 1 of them being bad, which was the Dead Live Service game, which, again, a dead game is not a game. And then we have Valorant on console, which I don't really know what to do with. Comparing this to last year's Summer Games Fest, where the 25 games I looked at, 21 of them released. Although less games percentage-wise released, we actually got a better spread of quality this time around of games that actually did release. 14 good games beats 2023's 10 good games. And this year only had 1 Dead Live Service game compared to 2023's 3 or 4 Dead Live Services, depending on if you count Wayfinder or not. As for my score, I am batting just under 50% with 12 out of my 25 predictions correct. Moving on to OTK. Skyguard Arena. I think I may have actually played a demo for this one at one point. I have vague memories of this one. Anywho, it launched into early access on November 19th and has a positive reception, although it does not have many reviews. Kitsune Tales released to an overwhelmingly positive reception on Steam in August, so if you're looking for a Wolf Girl alternative to Super Mario, it's there. Nimrods launched into early access in October of 2024 and was received very well. No, I still don't want to become a Nimrod. Thanks. Evercore Heroes. This game has gone through such a weird development phase. You know, this game was initially meant to be a competitive PvE game where like teams of 3 or 4 would like compete against other teams to kill monsters and like do PvE better. Somehow. Subsequently, this game has pivoted its direction into being a co-op roguelike. The game has not been released, but there is a demo available to play on the Steam store. Warden's Will, which gave me very heavy we have Risk of Rain at home kind of energy. You know, I kind of felt like it might not have been the best approach to challenge Risk of Rain 2, considering that game is almost universally beloved. But then Risk of Rain 2 has somehow since shit the bed and broken the game out of nowhere. So there is a market for a game that won't just majorly break the way the game works for everybody for no reason. Warden's Will launched on January of 2025 and has been received mostly positive. So yeah, if you're looking for a replacement Risk of Rain, then there's one here. Mousebusters has not released yet on PC. The game released on iOS and Android, and I'm going to say to a positive reception with a 4.6 and 4.9 star rating on the app stores. Look, app store ratings are notoriously easy to bot, but I don't have any metrics to go off of, so this one, I guess, is good. Astrometer is not out yet, but has been posting bi-monthly dev blogs on their Steam store page and also has a demo to try out. The release date is TBA, which means if you're looking to scratch that Undertale itch, then you'll just have to play Deltarune, which comes out in a few days. Sugar Dew Island released in March to pretty decent reviews, although the negative ones point towards a lack of depth and a lot of repetitiveness to the game, which means if you're still watching this video, then you'll probably like it. Also, I do want to point out that on this game's Steam store, there is a big sign that tells you to try out the demo before you buy the whole game, in which the demo progress will transfer to the full game if you do end up buying it, which is a super cool thing to do. Glitch Spanker has not released yet. It is slated for a Q3 release this year and has had semi-recent dev updates on the Steam store page, as well as a demo that is also sitting on the store page. Chef RPG released in September into early access, and it looks like the devs were cooking with this one. It sits at a very positive with over 1,200 reviews, and I myself have played about 10 minutes of this game. Look, it came out at a pretty hectic time of the year, and I haven't gotten around to giving it a real go yet. Lucky Tower Ultimate was similarly also released in September in early access to a very positive reception. This one apparently much better than I thought it would be, so that's cool. Athenian Rhapsody released in May of 2024, which means that it must have already been released when it was on the showcase last year. It's mostly positive, so if you're looking to scratch that Undertale itch and don't want to wait the couple of days for Deltarune, then this is here. Solarpunk has not released yet, but it does have a demo on their Steam store page, and I played it for my Steam Next Fest video. for about 20 minutes, which probably wasn't enough to get to all the cool shit, but it was enough for me to be upset by the bland crafting mechanics. It was in the top 5 of most played demos during Steam Next Fest, so that should be a good sign. Just as a side note, when I was researching this game, I looked at the Steam discussion forums, which no sane person should ever do, because some of the shit on here is just absolute nonsense. Like, one person made like a post because they were upset that the game is in first person, and another one was seemingly upset that the game had been given a government grant or something. Like, if you want to see the worst takes ever about your favorite games, look here. Or don't, because this kind of brain rot it's terminal. World's Worst Handyman has not released yet, but it does have a demo on its Steam page. And you know what? I actually gave this one a go because it did look like a bit of fun, and it is. So I'm putting this one on the wish list, and I'm going to keep an eye on. Dark and Darker released just a few days after the OTK showcase last year to mixed reviews, and it hasn't really changed that much since. Rah Rah Boom is not out yet, and I cannot find much news on this one. Combo Devils is supposed to come out sometime this year, not much news on when. Big Boy Boxing has not released yet. The dev's Twitter has been pretty sparse with updates, but the game does have a demo on its Steam page. It did not show up in the OTK showcase, but maybe it will show up in one of the other ones coming up. Smack Studio released on Steam in August of 2024. It's got a very positive rating on Steam, but it seems to be a very niche title. You know, it's for people who want to play a platform fighter with custom characters, but they need a bit of know-how to actually create. Rumble Club somehow has a positive rating on Steam. I have played a little bit of this one and thought it was extremely bland. Again, the general populace doesn't seem to agree with me because this one is sitting positive. My response to this is to say that they are just all wrong and I'm right, and they should feel bad for having fun in this video game. Atomic Picnic released into early access with a mixed reception on Steam. Reviews tend to say that it could be fun eventually, but it released in an extremely buggy and underbaked state, which is sad because this one was on my radar, but I guess I'll just have to give it another look somewhere down the line. Claws and Chaos released in October to a mixed reception, which if you factor in the cute kitty tax, then it probably should have been in the bad tier. Dwarven Realms released in September and to my surprise was not a shovelware game. People liked it. Alright. Akatori has not come out yet, and I cannot find news anywhere on this game or what's going on with it. So last year, Screenbound did the rounds at pretty much every major showcase, and it didn't come out, which is kind of weird. Foul Damage, the Fragile Egg platforming game, came out in September to good reviews. Paperclay pretty much just dropped as I finished up the script for this video. I played the demo for this one in Steam Next Fest, I think, and I did not love it. It hasn't stopped other people from liking it though, so this one looks like it's going to be trending positive, unless something major changes over the next couple of days. Temtem Swarm released into early access to a decent player reception. Seems to be leaning more mixed than fully positive, but we'll leave it in good tier. It feels kind of weird that an early access Vampire Survivors clone is what the studio decided to do next after Temtem. Vin Defiant came out on April 4th and only has 20 reviews on Steam as of writing, and only one verified gaming outlet has reviewed it. So while it is positive, technically there isn't really much of a sample size here. Freaked Flea Pit has not released yet, but it does have a demo on a Steam page, as well as semi-regular dev updates. I assume we will hear more about, horny Crypt of the Necrodancer soon. Rogue Labyrinth is not out yet. The developer of this game actually commented in the last Summer Games Fest video, so, if you're watching, I did end up trying your demo and I did end up liking it, and the game is sitting on my wish list, ready for it to be released. This isn't the first time a developer of a game has actually commented on one of my videos, which is one of those things that I've just have not gotten used to. People who actually make these games do watch my reviews sometimes. It kind of scares me to death that happens, especially if I talk shit about their games. I feel kind of bad a dev might come across one of these videos where I watch one of their trailers and I'm just like, yeah, look, this looks like kind of shit, man. Be My Horde is yet another Vampire Survivors clone that launched into early access. It actually has a very positive reception and is due for a major update within the next few days, or it might have already come out by the time this video drops. Cozy Dungeons has not released yet. I think I put this one as a bad purely because the trailer's audio wasn't mixed very well. I could not find any news on this one. Just Crow Things landed in August 16th to very positive reviews. Astral Throne released and was received pretty well too. Control-Alt-Deal, no release, but there is a demo on the Steam store page. Pull Stay. Yeah, this one released, and it certainly has a positive reception. What you are seeing is a real game on the Steam store that people liked. The Bazaar is apparently an auto-battler card game. It is not on Steam, and I couldn't find a Metacritic review score for this game, or really any kind of review scores for this game. From what I could find, a lot of people seem to like this game, but really hate its microtransactions. But I don't know if the devs fixed that portion of the game or not. Look, the game's subreddit, it is decently active for a game that isn't on any major storefront. I'm going to put it as mid, I don't really know. If you have played this game, then let me know if it's actually any good or not. Anotria, the last song, came out and wasn't very well received. A lot of praise going to the aesthetics and environments, but a lot of criticisms leveled at the gameplay. I think people may have been kinder to it if it were cheaper maybe. But gameplay is something you kind of really need to nail as a Souls-like. Haunted Paws has not released yet, but there has been a beta as recent as February of this year, but no news on a release date. Broken Law Unfollow is not out yet, but does have a demo and a vague release date of Q3 this year. This one did show up in the OTK showcase earlier this week, but I don't think there was a release date with that one. And the trailer was more or less exactly the same as the one from last year, so I don't know. Finding Frankie. Last year I said I wanted this game to be good, but I didn't think it would be, so I put it as mid, and I really should have just believed, you know? Maybe I should have made a video where I played the demos of all the unreleased games of this year, because again, another game with no release date or hasn't released, but there is a demo on the Steam store page. Once Human released in July and did very, very well. This was kind of just a sleeper hit. This just kind of came out of nowhere and everyone just kind of loved it. Wild Bastards is a game that I had to kind of make a bit of a judgment call on. I'm just going to put it into positive, despite the fact that it probably takes a point away from me. So there are two games on the Steam store with the name Betrayed. I learned today that one of them is a porno game. The one I was actually looking for is not out yet, but there is a demo on the store page. Wizardium, released on April 30th of this year, and like most boomer shooters, was well received. It seems to be a pretty consistently decent genre of games. Low Life Forms. This game is currently not available on Steam, but the website for the game has a tab for NFTs, so look, frankly, if this is out in some form or not, I don't really care. Legacy Steel and Sorcery came out to positive reviews, although just barely in early access. Miikoverse isn't officially released yet, but it does have an alpha that can be accessed through the Steam store. There is not much news out and about with this one. The trailer on the Steam store page has Kermit the Frog dancing, and I know it's meant to show that you can bring in custom avatars, but you really shouldn't be fucking with copyrighted works in official marketing for your game, especially if that IP is owned by Disney. OTK. Fucking hell. Why did I have to look at so many games from the showcase? Oh yeah, if I sound a little different, it's because I ran out of time to record all of this in one session. And last night I had a friend's 30th birthday party to go to, which was super cool. He more or less converted his shed into like a nightclub. And we even had a DJ there. They didn't play Darude Sandstorm, so 0 out of 10. Anyway, I'm still recovering a bit, so if I sound a bit weird, that's why. So yeah, OTK. 30 out of 50 games released since last year's showcase. Percentage-wise, it puts it just under 2/3, but quality-wise, there were 25 mostly good games and 5 just okay games here to play. Now, in 2023, I only looked at 9 games from OTK, so comparing yearly stats, it ain't gonna do much here. But, you know, if we do, we can see that OTK this year has had more games released percentage-wise, and the quality of the games were also overall better. As for my score, I got 14 out of 30 this time. Still kind of trending just under half, predictions being correct. Day of the Devs. Battlevision Network not out, and while the developers' Twitter is fairly active, I couldn't find anything about this game or when it might release. Petal Runner is not out yet. The most recent thing I could find was a development video from about 2 months ago about this one, so it's still being worked on. Karma, The Dark World, is the first game from this conference to actually come out, and I have played this one. It's a walking sim with puzzle elements, and it's one of the most bizarre games I've played in a while. I'm glad to see it's resonating with other players, and it did very well for the developers. I would like to see what the developers do next with this kind of game, and I hope that they actually make more of a game kind of game this time. UFO 50. Yeah, look, I was really unsure on if this one was going to be good, and I really shouldn't have. I should have put more faith in the fact that this was developed by the same person who's made one of my favorite games of all time. Yeah, look, I missed the mark on this one. I can be a bit of an idiot sometimes. Goira, released in April to very good reviews. Arranger, similarly, also released to very good reviews. Zoocosis was released in September to a very mixed reception. Look, I really liked the look of this one. The trailer was really cool, and I think a lot of people thought the trailer was really cool because a lot of the reviews point to this one just not being what people thought it was going to be, and they felt like a bit misled. Building Relationships, the game where you play as a house, is not out, but it has a demo on the store and has had some very frequent dev updates in their news page. Hello Again, not out. No news other than a vague 2025 release. Tom the Post Girl is not out and has no release date, but it has a demo on the store page. And that is Day of the Devs. 5 out of 10 games released this year, giving us an even 50-50 split, with 4 of those 5 games being good and 1 of them just being mid. Comparing this to last year, where Day of the Devs also had 10 games that I looked at, but only 3 of those released. Granted, 2023's releases were all straight up winners, so the quality has dropped just a little bit. As for me, yeah, look, my score was 2 out of 5. This isn't surprising. Devolver. The Crush House didn't quite make it into the positive category. The lack of good replayability seems to have hurt this one. Tenjutsu is not out yet. Could not find any news on when this one was coming. The Talos Principle, Road to Elysium DLC, came out and was very well received. Still have not played any of these games despite them being almost universally loved. The first game also got a remaster or remake as well that was pretty well received. Flash Kickers is not the name of this game. It is actually called Angerfoot. I honestly don't know how I got that wrong in my original video and script. And look, I spent 5 minutes looking for a game that does not exist. You know, it came out and it was apparently a very good game. Possessors is not out yet, and I expect it may not be out for a while, as Heart Machine really need to work on making Hyperlight Breaker a better game before, releasing a different game. There was a dev blog in March though, so it doesn't look like it's fully on the back burner. 5 games from Devolver, 3 of them released, 2 of them being good and 1 of them being kind of mid. Compare this to 2023's Devolver, which had 6 out of 8 games release, and most of them being good. Devolver did do like a showcase or a video not too long ago announcing the delays for most of their games. So them being on a bit of a backslide isn't that much of a surprise. Funnily enough, the 2 games that have not released from 2023's Devolver showcase still aren't out today, 2 years later, and we don't know where those ones are. Anyway, moving on to future games. The first game from Future Games Show was Bogdan's Cross, which has not released. It's the future and I don't have the game. What's going on? First Dwarf released into early access on June 2024, just skirting the line into positive, but barely. People like this game, but it seems like it hasn't quite got all the pieces together quite yet. So when I look at some of the titles for these games on the script of my video, I cannot for the life of me remember what they are. But when I look at the Steam store page, I'll remember it again. I don't have recollection of this game whatsoever, even after looking at the trailers. I don't remember this. Very positive though, good stuff, I guess. Detective Dotson came out just over a month ago and was well received. Unfortunately, it looks like it went very much under the radar. I still think the art style of this game looks fantastic. Sometimes games do the whole content creator plays a game thing in their trailers, and every time without fail, it makes me instantly disinterested in the game. Even the trailer on the Steam store page does the same thing. The game did do well, so if a co-op escape room style puzzle game is what you're after, here is one. I just don't think it looks appealing based on the trailers. Alright, so I copped a bit of flack for thinking DDS2 looked like a bad game last year. I'll be honest, I still don't think it looked great, but I had no idea this was meant to be Drug Dealer Simulator 2. I really should have looked up the acronym before I made my judgment. The game seemed to have been pretty well received, but has experienced a period of review bombing after the publisher of the game launched a copyright infringement investigation into the developers of Schedule 1. From reading a few news articles, it looks like the actual developers of Drug Dealer Simulator 2 don't even agree with the investigation, so That's super cool thing for a publisher to do. Look, I seriously doubt there will be any lawsuits in the end, but the damage to the game's reputation has already been done. I mean, the game's reputation hasn't dipped below mostly positive on Steam, so it's not the end of days, but it's still just like a really shit situation that just could have been avoided completely. Starvaders came out at the start of the month and did very well with a 98% positive rating with over 1,200 reviews, and that's pretty good. Clockwork Ambrosia is slated for a November release of this year. There is a demo on the Steam store page. Sword of the Necromancer Resurrection came out to positive reviews. Critics put this at a 72 while Steam puts it at an 85%, so although there are only 27 Steam reviews, I'm not getting the point either way, so we'll just say this one's positive. Oh, I'd forgotten about Pass of Course. I was super excited for this one, and then I played the demo for it, and I did not like it. I thought this was going to get delayed again, but it didn't, and yeah, it didn't land well for a lot of the people. Performance issues and especially the controls of the game were the main problems people seem to be pointing out. Relic, First Guardian, ain't out yet, other than a vague 2025 release date. The Operator released in July of 2024. It does seem to have done pretty well, although there is a common theme within the reviews that the game just seems to be too short. Deliver Us Home was one of the most unfinished looking games in this showcase with prototype gameplay and a plug for a Kickstarter in the mix. Hell, even the Steam store page says content on this page is still a work in progress. Again, due to my lack of research, I realize this is from a developer who has not only successfully made games before, but also successfully kickstarted and delivered a good game from a Kickstarter campaign, which I need to stress to you all, barely ever happens. I think when games that are kickstarted come out, they usually don't meet expectations unless your name is Hyper Light Drifter. This game is not out, and I wouldn't expect it to come out for quite a while. The Precinct just came out a couple of weeks ago and was very well received. If I remember correctly, it was even featured on the front page of the Steam store at one point. Motor Doom released in August to good reviews, although there's not a whole lot of them. I think a lot of players just really like the idea of what if Tony Hawk's was a Vampire Survivors game. Sacrifier most recently showed up during the Triple I showcase where it was given a Q1 2026 release date. This was another one of my best in shows from last year, and I'm looking forward to this game. The Goat Simulator Multiverse of Madness DLC came out and was good. Did anyone even think it was going to be bad? Eric Scholm is not out yet, but has recently been sending out previews to press outlets. So I imagine we will be getting a release date and announcement soon enough, or maybe some more news coming into Summer Games Fest this year. So I'll be the first to admit that my way of telling if a game is good or not is a little flawed because we get games like Run from Mummies. This game has a 100% positive rating on Steam, but there are only 30 or so reviews, and half of them seem to be from people who got the game for free. Is this game an underrated gem, or did the developer get all of their friends to play it and review it on Steam? Just to be clear, I'm not accusing the developer of anything. I'm just saying the sample size of reviews is just really small, so it's hard to get a clear gauge of the overall quality. So this will just go in the good tier, which, you know, is good enough for me. Oh, I remember this one. Dustborn. This is another game that really throws a wrench into my kind of like system here. Steam puts this at 73% and Metacritic puts this at a 68. And I cannot look to the, Metacritic user scores because this one was obviously review bombed by people who never played the game. And I know that nobody who review bombed this game actually played the game because with almost every single game I looked at for this video, the Metacritic user reviews never exceeded the amount of Steam reviews. Now, Dustborn is multi-platform and available on the Epic Store, but another game like Revenge of the Savage Planet, for instance, which is on the exact same platforms as Dustborn, and has 2 times the amount of reviews as Dustborn on Steam, has less than 10 times the amount of user reviews on Metacritic. Unlike Steam, Metacritic doesn't, require or check to see if any of the, users actually bought the game, and as such, there's no real way the score can be trusted. Based on the trailer, I thought this game was bad, so wherever I put this game, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna say mid. Why not? I don't care. It doesn't really matter. This just had to be a bit of a judgment call. Enter the Chronosphere. Not out, but you can play the demo or request access to the playtest for this one on Steam and play it now. New Mudder. Reception for this one seems to be split right down the middle at around 50% positive, no matter where you look. There is a news post where the developer seems to have taken negative feedback on board and plans to fix it. That announcement was in December, and I don't know if this update to fix things ever came out. Sono Kuni seems to have landed with a decent, albeit not very large reception on Steam. Again, not much of a sample size in terms of reviews to go off of, but it lands itself as mostly positive. Eternal Strands released in January to a pretty decent reception. I remember playing some of this and not really vibing with it. I don't know where I did though. Maybe it was on Game Pass or something. Anyway, not every game is for everyone, so I'm happy it found its audience. Starship Troopers Extermination is another funny little title because while the Steam reviews put this at 82% positive, the critic reviews put this as low as a 61. Also, if you only count the most recent reviews, i.e. the last 30 days on Steam, this gets put somewhere in the ballpark of 60% as well. So what happened here is the game was in early access and launched into 1.0 in October of 2024. Proper gaming outlets usually don't review games until they hit full release. And you can see on the Steam graph that October is also where the negative reviews also start outweighing the positive ones. So counting every review before the official launch of the game puts this game at 85% positive, but everything after launch is only at 49%. So I'm left with another conundrum here. Like, do I count early access reviews or do I only count everything from launch onwards? So this is another judgment call. This one might just be mid, I feel like. The casting of Frank Stone launched into an extremely mixed reception in September, a lot of players pointing to pretty bad optimization and a bit of a shallow story. Nico D. Rico launched in December to decent reviews. I myself played it and didn't really vibe with it. It has since had like a major update and with it a title change to call it the quote-unquote the director's cut. A lot of the changes made for this edition are very vague other than a new hard mode and a new world added to the game. None of this really makes a difference because the game would sit in positive tier no matter what. But it's cool that the devs are still working on this game and still putting more passion and effort into a game that they really could have just left it as is. Bodycam released in June, just after Summer Games Fest ended last year, to decent but bordering on mixed reviews, with it only moving towards more mixed as time goes on. This game is still in early access, and so there are only Steam reviews to go off of here. I'm going to make a bit of a judgment call and call it good for now. It seems like optimization is the biggest issue plaguing this game, and maybe waiting for major fixes would be ideal. So last year, the Future Game Show finished off their presentation with an announcement from a new studio that pretty much just telling us who they were. It didn't show anything other than an animation with a frog. So after I finished making my video last year, I deleted the name of the studio from my script and left the question of, do I remember this? And do I remember the studio's name? I do remember the frog, but like gun to my head, I do not remember the studio name. Do you remember it? So yeah, I had to look this up. This is Woodrunner Games, and they did actually end up announcing a game at Gamescom 2024, which is a showcase I covered for the YouTube channel. So I searched back through the script and I didn't find the name of the game or the studio here. Like either it wasn't in the showcase or I didn't cover it for whatever reason. Look, I don't know. It's a frog game. It's a frog game called Croak. That's it. Future Games Fest is done and dusted, so let's see how they went. 21 out of 28 games released, with 16 of those being good and 5 of them being a bit mid. A much bigger improvement over Future Games Fest from last year, which only had 12 out of 20 games released and just over half of those being any good. As for me, I only got a third of my predictions correct. I kind of really dropped the ball on this one. Just like last year, we are going back to back with the Future of Play showcase. Abyss X Zero did not come out, but I'm pretty sure this was slated for sometime in 2026. Zodiac XX Leo was supposed to come out in 2024. I looked around and the only news I could find was a different date on the dev's website that now lists it as Q2 2025, although that's pretty much over, so I don't know what's going on there. Battlesuit Aces, not to be confused with the now defunct and dead Battle Aces from before, although I guess the name is probably up for grabs now if you wanted that, is not out yet, but had a limited time demo earlier this month, so we may see some more of this soon. The Ukulele remaster is not out yet. There was an extended gameplay trailer as late as March this year on their YouTube and a reaffirmation that is going to be coming out sometime in 2025. Alright, so to break the streak of unreleased games, we have the DLC of that one game that needed a Kickstarter to launch. It launched in December and is sitting very positive. I guess that counts as a released game, that's good, right? Lock Digital, which also launched in December to a positive reception. There is a demo on the store page which you can try before you buy. Croakwood, not to be confused with Woodrunners. Croak is not out yet, but features some pretty extremely in-depth, like bi-monthly dev blogs on their Steam page. Not sure on the release date yet. Cozy Marbles, unfortunately, is not out yet with no sign of a release date in sight. Most recent update was the developer taking down the demo off of their Steam store page because the game has changed so much that the demo was no longer representative of what the game is like, which is fair, but also disappointing because I really just wanted to build some cool marble tracks and now I can't do it. Wrecker, also known as the Chicken House game, released in early access to a decent reception in September, but also has been slowly dipping over time. Similarly, Airborne Empires also released into early access to a decent reception, but has also been trending downwards just a bit. Still positive though. Dungeon Crawler. Ah, no, I hate that. Dungeon Crawler released into early access and was able to claw up a fuck's sake, so lame. Alright, see if I can do this with a straight face. Dungeon Crawler released into early access and was able to claw up a positive reception from its players. So I wrote this game's name down as just Node. Was I lazy, or was this game not always called Node, the last favourite of Atari? Anyway, it took me a while to find. It's not out yet, but there has been a closed access playtest as recently as a couple of weeks ago. Geno Kids is not out yet, but I played the demo during Steam Next Fest and I did not like it. I hope it's able to find its audience, but this one is not for me. No release date as of yet. Future of Play had just only 5 of its 13 games released, but all of the games that did manage to come out were good. It's fully green here. This is one of the showcases that did not appear in 2023, so nothing to compare it to, and I don't know if there's going to be another one this year. As a recording, it hasn't been announced, and we are just a week away, so it's probably not happening. As for me, I only had 2 out of 5 predictions correctly, so I'm kind of keeping consistent with my just under 50% batting average with this one. Wholesome Games. Mythmatch, in typical indie game fashion, has no release date but a demo on the Steam store. Caravan Sandwich was one of those games that I almost but never got around to playing last year. The game landed with an overall positive rating and will sit on my Steam wishlist, which is reaching almost 100 games now, until one day I bite the bullet and actually buy it, and then probably never play it. Ete also landed with a positive reception in July of 2024. Discounty did not come out, but the latest update as of 2 days ago says to stay tuned, so I'm guessing a release date or a new trailer will be coming out soon. Squeakross has a demo on the Steam store, and while there is no release date, it is hinted that it will be sooner rather than later. Critic Cafe released to a mostly positive reception. Some reviewers point to problems here and there with the game being maybe a little bit too short and shallow, but overall it's good. Isla, a Frosty Guide. This game reminds me of a certain other game that I did not like. This game is not out yet, but the Kickstarter for it was successful, so that's nice. Dungeons of Hinterberg. Any long-time viewer of the channel already knows what I think of this game, and in case you don't, I made a video last year where I ranked every game I played in 2024 from worst to best, and this game made number 4 for the year. This game is special, and I highly recommend you go and play it. Kamairu did better than I thought it would, landing with a very positive rating on Steam. Look, people love frogs. I still don't understand the love for frogs, but people love them. Pool, spelt with 4 O's, not 3. How could I possibly have made that mistake? On Your Tail looks to have done pretty alright, launching in December to a positive reception. And you know what? So far this conference has been very... Oh my god, what happened here? Tracks of Thought landed and yeah, it didn't do so great. A lot of the reviews on this game point to a very buggy experience that did not live up to its premise. Letter Bunny failed to deliver a release date to us. I tried to parcel track on this one, but the last update was from over a year ago, so maybe this one's lost in transit. Tiny Tires is not out yet and has no release date. Okay, so I did some digging because I'm kind of excited for this one and it has been on my wish list, and I found the developer's YouTube channel. There is a dev blog from about a year ago, as well as a new trailer from about 5 months ago, along with the SpongeBob parody of the opening credits to The Last of Us. I'm not gonna lie, this video is unironically pretty great, but I just have no words to describe the motions my brain went through trying to process the information of finding this on the developer's YouTube channel while trying to look for information about their video game. Link to the Sponge. I'm gonna leave a link to the SpongeBob Last of Us title credits in the description because it's good. You guys should check that out. Now, with most of the conferences I cover during Summer Games Fest, but especially this conference, I do leave out some games if I just have absolutely nothing to say about them. But Wholesome Games I tend to cut out a lot more than others because 70 indie games are too many, and especially with Wholesome Games, a lot of them are very similar to each other. So yeah, looking at 14 out of 70 games isn't really indicative of increasing or decreasing quality over the years. That being said, let's just get to the stats. Out of the 14 games I looked at, we had 8 of them release, and all but one of those games was good. If we compare that to 2023, which had 13 out of the 19 games I looked at releasing, similar, all of those games but one were good, which makes Wholesome Games pretty consistent, all things considered. And maybe I should take these learnings into next year, because I was only able to correctly predict 1 out of 8 games. The one game being Dungeons of Hinterberg, which was a game I had played the demo for before I put in my prediction last year. So yeah, look, I don't want to talk about it. Alright, moving on to Xbox. Black Ops 6 is currently sitting at a mixed rating on Steam, and that is trending downwards. The campaign of the game seems to be something people generally like, but the treatment of multiplayer seems to have pissed off a lot of long-time players, for whatever reason. Also, reviews on the Steam store for this one are broken because you can't actually see how many hours any of the reviewers have on the game. That's probably due to like the Call of Duty launcher thing that people have to launch the game through, which is, I hate that fucking thing. Anyway, this game's currently sitting at mid. Doom: The Dark Ages launched very recently to a positive reception, although a lot of reviewers point to the music in the game being of a much lesser quality than usual. I wonder why that is. State of Decay 3, no news. I expect to hear more about this one this year, unless it's going to be one of those games that is announced and then we just don't hear about it for like 3 years, because that does happen sometimes with these showcases. Dragon Age Veilguard. With over 37,000 reviews on Steam, this might be one of the most aggressively mid games to release over the past year. Speaking of aggressively mid, Starfield. Except it's not Starfield, it's the DLC. Shattered Space seems to have completely shattered Bethesda's credibility as a developer, because this DLC is mostly negative on Steam. Panic buttons are being pressed and people are scared for Elder Scrolls 6. So Fallout 76 is certainly a love it or hate it kind of game, and it seems a lot more people do love it than hate it nowadays. It's hard to gauge whether the update to this game was well received, but the game seems to be continually improving and reception just keeps getting better and better for this game, so I'll say it's good, I guess. Expedition 33, I feel like I don't need to say anything, but in case you somehow have not heard about this game, it is utterly fantastic and is undoubtedly a Game of the Year contender. Play it on Game Pass. South of Midnight released somewhat recently and has been doing pretty well for itself. The buzz around it has been good, but it hasn't tempted me into playing it just yet. A lot of the praise is geared towards the art style and environments, which yeah, I can definitely understand that. World of Warcraft: War Within was received pretty well by critics. I didn't know game critics reviewed, MMO expansions, because surely it would take months to do all of the content and stuff. It's hard to get a read on how much the player base liked it. The user reviews on Metacritic put this one in more mixed, but again, I take these with a grain of salt. So I just decided to ask a friend that I know who played it, to tell me if it was good or not. So this is what he said about it. He said it was the current expansion and the last one have been stride after stride, and that we might see the return of the golden era of WoW. So if you don't agree with that and you think that this expansion is mid and not actually good, this judgment call was made by this guy and not me. Metal Gear Solid Delta is slated for release in about 3 months. Konami are on a bit of a winning streak at the moment. I'm still very skeptical because I remember what they did to Metal Gear Solid 5 and Silent Hills, but yeah, there is a chance that this is going to be good. Flintlock rides the thinnest of thin lines between good and mixed. It's sitting at good for now, probably wait for a sale type deal though. Age of Mythology Retold managed to buck the trend of modern RTS remakes being absolute dogshit. as well as being well received as long as you don't look at the reception for the $8 DLC that changes the deity PNGs to the legacy versions. But what? Why is that $8? Why isn't that not just in the game? Perfect Dark is a game I expect to be showed at this year's Summer Games Fest or Xbox Showcase. I'd be surprised if it doesn't show up. If or when it does, it'll be one to watch because the gameplay in the last trailer looked a little, what would you call it, E3 watchdogsy, if you know what I mean. So it'd be nice to compare it with something different. Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred is sitting out mixed, and I could talk to you all about why, but instead I would like to mention that they did a crossover pretty recently with Berserk, which is not only super cool, but it actually does fit very well into the dark fantasy aesthetic of Diablo 4. You know, does that kind of thing interest you? Because, you know, what if I told you that it would cost $150 to buy it all? What a fucking joke. Fable, I don't know what's happening with this game. It feels like it has been coming out for like 5 years now. I expect to see it again in the upcoming showcase with hopefully a release date this time around. Fragpunk released to a pretty decent player reception. I totally called that the game would be like horribly monetized, but I didn't know that they would use AI art in that game. That's kind of shitty. But I have played this one and it's kind of fun. Nothing on mixtape yet. Another game that took out my best in show of last year. I would love a release date this year. Please give it to me. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle looks to be a great addition to the Indiana Jones franchise. I think a lot of people consider this to be the definitive fourth movie. That's pretty cool. You know, you have 3 movies and then you have one game that like kind of continues the legacy. It's kind of weird that they didn't make any more Indiana Jones movies after the 3rd one though. Wu Chang Fallen Feathers has got a release date slated for 24th of July this year. Some pretty decent buzz behind this one. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a decent marketing push for this game in one or multiple of the upcoming showcases. Avowed launched in February of this year and was well enough received, but it didn't blow anyone away. It feels like it wants to be forgotten because Obsidian have already moved on to Outer Worlds 2, and that looks to be like the big marketed game from Xbox this year. I think if you want to play this one, do it on Game Pass or wait for a sale. Adamfall was pretty much well received, wasn't exactly what everyone thought it was going to be, but I think the overall quality seems to be pretty good. Stalker 2 was not quite a hit with critics, but the general player base absolutely ate this shit up. 85,000 reviews on Steam is quite an accomplishment. To have that all mostly positive is pretty good. The game was buggy on release and there is still performance issues, but this is pretty much par for the course for Stalker games. Gears of War E-Day, not out. Not surprising. But there was recently an announcement of a Gears 1 remaster, so please do 2 and 3 and just bring them all to PC. Thank you very much. Xbox released 16 out of 22 games from its showcase, with 12 of those being good, 3 of them being mid, and 1 of them being outright bad. As for me, I was able to correctly guess 10 out of 16, which is probably my best percentage of predictions correct so far, which is really sad. Comparing Xbox to its 2023 conference, where only 11 of the 18 games released and only 5 of them were good, so 2024 was a major improvement for Xbox. PC Gaming Show, holy shit, we still have 3 more showcases to go. Among the Wilds, not out yet. Alpha tests have been somewhat recent. I don't know if we will hear more about this game soon or not. Starbirds is not out yet, but it did show up in the OTK showcase earlier this week. Vague 2025 release date for this one. Lawnvale is following the trend of not being out yet. I should be noted this one is published by PlayStack and they have a pretty good track record for picking winners. Ale Abbey, the Monastery Brewery game, bucked the trend so far and released into early access. I mean, at least it launched. Yeah, it's positive. Streets of Rogue 2 is not out yet, but if you guessed that there was a playable demo on the Steam store page, then you'd be correct. I have been looking forward to this game, but I haven't had the time to try the demo. I'd like to give it a go when I do have more time. Loved the first game though. Wonder Stars, game no release, game have playable demo, you know the deal. Southfield, the game is not released, but the game does not have a playable demo on the store page. Steel Seed has only just released in late April, surprising to me that it was actually good, because I thought it looked like garbage. Stormgate, oh, this came out. Oh, it's not doing so hot. RTS games are not really my forte. If you showed me footage of this or that one cancelled game from earlier, I wouldn't be able to tell you which one was which. This game is supposed to be like developed on player feedback, so I'm kind of hoping they're able to turn this one around. Mars Tactics might be the game with the most social media links I've ever seen on a Steam sidebar. Other than 2025, vague release date, I don't know when it's coming. Sumerian 6 somehow managed to sneak under my radar. I had completely forgotten about this. Okay, I'm putting it on the wish list. It seems to be pretty good. Sulphur released into early access in October and seems to be landing well with players. One reviewer even mentioned that it's very Swedish. I don't know what that means. Phantom 1 is not out yet, but has had some playtests here and there. Hey devs, next time you do one, you want to hit me up, yeah? This game looks pretty cool. Killing Floor 3 was slated to release early this year until some very negative feedback from their open beta forced them to delay the game. Now, I'm not saying I was the reason this happened, but there is a non-zero chance that my video might have had something to do with it. It has been moved to late July, which does not leave me with much hope, but stranger things have happened. Something tells me this isn't getting another open beta before they launch the game in July. Copa City has not released yet, but has very regular updates on their Steam store page. Tom Popo, now this is a game that I've seen multiple reviewers championing as a great game. I played the demo during Steam Next Fest and I did not like it. Regardless, it's got good reviews, but not very many of them. I Am Your Beast. Say hello to my 6th favorite game of 2024. Don't take my word for it, it's overwhelmingly positive on Steam with 3.4k reviews. Play it. Good. PlayStation 14. Wait, this was on the PC Gaming Showcase? This game has been in development for a decade now, surely. Anyway, still not available freely on Steam yet. I think this has a chance to set the world alight when it does. Odinfall released into early access in March and seems to be liked well enough to put this into positive. A lot of people are saying it's very similar to Nuclear Throne. I don't know what that is. Stridon, or the game where you blow up a moose with a rocket launcher. It is not out yet. The developers are aiming to release it into early access July 11th. Death Sprint 66 released, and I was kind of excited about this one, but I haven't really heard much about it since it was released, so I don't know how the multiplayer in the game is going, but the game seems to be sitting in positive, so we'll give it a positive rating. Crescent County was another one of my picks for Best in Show last year, which released a demo earlier this year. I did try it, it had some performance issues, but the devs seem to be very well aware of that. Since then, they have launched a Kickstarter of this game to expand out the scope a bit, and you know what? Sure, I'll back it. This might be a mistake, considering my current track record with picking good games has not been good. But because it was one of my picks for Best in Show last year, I feel like it'd be a bit of a disservice not to, put my money where my mouth is, Cat Quest 3 released into a very positive reception in August of 2024. I'm a dog person and I'm kind of allergic to cats, so this might as well just be trash to me. I'm kidding. Star Trucker released in September to decently positive reviews. I think some people were disappointed there weren't more things to do in the game, but hey, they released some cool looking, vinyls for the soundtrack. I like the look of that. 83 is not out yet, but they remade themselves a new trailer for their game, which is an actual trailer this time, so that's a massive improvement. Early access is slated for the end of the year. Tactical Breach Wizards. This was my number 7 game from 2024. This game is fun and it is really funny. Yeah, overwhelmingly positive reception and the game looks like it did pretty well. I'm hoping for a sequel for this game, but even if they don't make a direct sequel or do something else, this development team is now on my radar and I would love to see what they do next. Hotel Galactic is not out yet, but it has a demo and people seem to really like it. I may have missed the mark on this one, but it didn't release, so I'm not getting a point anyway. Take my blessings. Every Day We Fight is slated for a release on July 10th of this year. Well, I like XCOM based games, so there's a good chance I'll give this one a go if it's any decent. Islands of Winds has not released and I could not find any news on it. I'm not surprised because when this one was shown, it looked very, very early on in development. Windblown released into early access last year and initially received a bit of a mixed reception, but has managed to put itself into positive reception over time. I played it and I liked it. I don't remember where it landed in my last year's video. It didn't make my top 15, I know that much. But funnily enough, this was probably the game that interested most of my friends when they watched my 2024 recap video. PC Gaming Show, just 13 of the 31 games from this showcase released, with 12 of them being good and 1 of them being mid. Comparing to 2023, where of the 27 games shown from that showcase, only 11 of them released, which is also pretty consistent. It's not a consistency that the PC Games Showcase should be comfortable with, but the quality of games to release has actually been much better. Just like my score, which I got 7 out of 13 correct, which is just slightly better than what I've been doing. Next up is the Latin American Showcase. Goblin Cleanup has not come out yet, but it has a demo on the Steam store page and slated for an early access release later this year. One Card One Shot Mafia is not out yet, but there was a demo somewhat recently, but no news I could find on when this one might release. Hidden in My Paradise launched in October to positive reviews. It looks pretty good. Mark of the Deep released and made a mark. You know, a good kind of mark. Can you tell that I'm running out of ways to say the same thing over and over? I'm starting to think this, format for the video was a mistake, but my script is 25 pages long now and there's kind of no going back. Arco. Hey, look, I misspelled this one too. This landed to overwhelmingly positive reviews. I bought the game and I have not played it yet. My backlog is absolutely shocking. Runa and the Shakuro Legacy is another game that released to positive, although not many reviews. Launched in January, actually looks pretty good. I might chuck it on my wish list for a rainy day. Although, as I said before, my backlog of actually purchased games that I have not played is also just shockingly long. Slime Heroes landed in March to positive reviews, but not very many. Look, $43. Yeah, no, that one's not going on my wish list. Tekoa, A Tale Among the Stars, has not released, and I could not find any news on a release date anywhere, which is a shame because this looks freaking amazing and I really want to play it. Despelote finally released earlier this month and is so great. It is one of the most unique games I have played just because of the story and the way it tells it. Although this game wouldn't be for everyone, I cannot recommend it enough. Sky Oceans, I'm super surprised this one came out. Another game to just completely, sneak under the radar. And maybe it stuck under the radar because it just wasn't hooking anyone. Reviewers were not a fan and Steam players point to the game just having a lot of problems. It does seem like the developers are working on fixing parts of the game, but currently the way it's going is mixed. The Cabbage Effect has not released yet. They did show up again during the Sugoi showcase late March, but they showed off the same trailer that they showed during this showcase. Hopefully a release date for this one soon. It was certainly one of the most interesting trailers I saw last year, and I'd love to get a chance to play it sometime soon. Dream Sweeper released in July of 2024 to good, but again, not very many reviews. Soul Quest has no release date, but there is a demo on the Steam store, and its Kickstarter did end up making its goal, so yeah, it's good for them. Codex Eternal Eclipse has no release date, and I couldn't find any news on this game. They do have a Discord to join, but I can't be bothered doing that. Tenebrae Somnia has no release date, but you guessed it, there is a playable demo on the Steam page. If I was good at actually keeping track of the games I look at, I probably would have played this during Steam's Next Fest, but I'm not, and I haven't. Stay With Me, no release date, demo on store, Alamau. Dream Core launched in January to decent reviews. I do not know why there are so many Backrooms and Liminal Space inspired games. Maybe one day I'll do a deep dive into why. It's just that there are so many and they all more or less do the exact same thing, yet they are almost always just popular and well received, and I don't know why. Dark Crown is not out yet. In fact, if you search that on Steam, you won't find it because we have another game that has been renamed. This is now Bleakwood. Mariachi Legends is not out yet, though it did successfully meet its Kickstarter goal, raising 11 million MX. Is that pesos? If that's pesos, that's like 880k Australian dollars, so not an insignificant amount to have raised. The Latin America Showcase managed to get 9 out of 19 games released, where 8 were good and 1 was mid. This one does not have a 2023 showcase to compare to, although this showcase will be appearing again this year, so we'll just have to check back in 2026 to see if there's any improvements. As for me, I was able to correctly guess 6 out of 9 games. Nice. Don't worry folks, we are almost there. Last conference and 7 games to go. Final stretch, let's do this. Hopefully my voice doesn't get out. Yes, Your Grey Snowfall released earlier this month to barely positive reviews. It's hard to pinpoint what exactly went wrong. Maybe just it wasn't enough of an improvement over the first game. Sunnyside, I actually remember seeing this one on the Steam store when it released. This one barely makes it into the mid tier. A lot of people feel like this game was abandoned before it could reach its full potential. Phoenix Springs released in October to decent reviews. It seems fairly niche. I remember seeing the trailer for this game in like 5 different showcases last year. I'm glad it found an audience that enjoyed the game. Albert Wild Quantum PI got a rename to Albert Wild Cat Detective, which is a much better title. It released in January of this year, another niche title, but people who played it seem to like it. Bubblegum Galaxy, no release date, but there is a demo on the Steam store as well as monthly dev vlogs. Much released in October to middling Steam reviews. Seems like a lot of people don't think the game was quite ready for a full release and it felt more like an early access game. That being said, the developer is still working on the game and has updated the game as recently as April of this year. Urban Jungle, which is the final game we are looking at today, released in March of this year and it was well received. For the final showcase of the night, women-led games had 6 of the 7 games from this showcase that I looked at releasing. 4 of them were good, 2 of them not so much. Similarly, I was only able to correctly guess the quality of 2 of the games. Alright, so we are at the end, so it's time to bundle together all of those stats we have to see if the showcases from 2024 improved over the ones from 2023. So in total, from 2024, I looked at 251 games. Of those 251 games, 151 of those were released, giving us around about a 60% rate of release, which is an ever so slight improvement over 2023's Summer Games Fest, which saw 100 out of 171 games released, which is around 58%. Where the biggest improvement comes from is from the quality of games that released. Of the 151 games released, 115 of them were good, 31 of them were mid, and only 4 of them were outright bad. If you're doing the math, that is, only 150, and I left out Valorant on console because I don't know what to do with that, and cutting it gives us a conveniently even number to work with. 76.6% of the games released from 2024's showcases were good, which is a noticeable improvement over 2023's, which was 63%. Also, despite me looking at more games overall this year, the rate of actual bad games has now dropped significantly from 10% in 2023 down to 2.6% in 2024. Now, obviously, I don't look at every single game from every single showcase, so these stats aren't bulletproof evidence that the showcases are getting better, but I think with a higher sample size and less overall bad games and more overall good games, we are getting more quality games, or that the showcases are just getting kind of better at picking and choosing what to show. What isn't getting better though is my ability to predict their quality. Of the 150 predictions, I was only able to correctly predict 70 of the games correctly, which puts me at about 46% correct guesses, which is down from last year's 62% of correct guesses. Which, to be honest, doesn't look great. Actually, it isn't great at all. I really need to lift my game this year. I can't have my predictions being slightly less consistent than a coin flip. Although I would be kind of interested to see how my overall score would have panned out if all of the 251 games actually came out. Anyway, speaking of predictions, I think it's time to make some predictions for the upcoming showcases. Like last year, Summer Games Fest has listed all of the partners for their showcases. Like last year, I'm just going to go through them and guess what each partner is going to show off, which I will do a follow-up on in the next video. So I'm just going to speedrun this because this video is taking way too long. Let's get through it. 1047 Games, these are the people behind Splitgate. It'll be something to do with Splitgate 2, I reckon, seeing as the game is in open beta. 2K, we already know about Borderlands and Mafia, which are 2 very likely games to show up, but I'm going to go out of left field and say BioShock has a chance of showing up this time around. 505 Games, Death Stranding 2, most likely. Amazing Season, probably a release date or a new trailer for Mecha Break. God, I hope not. Amazon Games, last year I said that Amazon Games would show off a new Tomb Raider game, instead they opted to show off some more New World. I'm doubling down. I think I might have just been a year too early for Tomb Raider. Annapurna could be many things. They have their hands in a lot of pies at the moment. I'm going to go with the new Blade Runner game. Atari, there is a solid chance that Atari shows off their Bubsy collection just for the memes. I'm down for that. Bandai Namco has a decent chance of being an ad partner, showing off Night Rain. Let's go with Shadow Labyrinth. Bellring Games, new studio. These guys are working on a game called Mistfall Hunter. I'd expect it to be that. Blumhouse have 5 horror games that did not release, so I'm guessing most of them will just show up again here. CD Projekt Red, it's going to be Witcher 4. That's it. Cyberpunk 2 only just went into pre-production. If they show a trailer for that, it is too soon. Capcom, I don't know, something Street Fighter maybe? Coffee Stain, no idea. These guys may show off something new that we haven't seen before. Day of the Devs, I'm skipping this, they're a partner because the day of devs, they do the showcase. Devolver, we know these guys are doing a showcase to show off apparently one game called Ball X Pit, the Kenny Sun story that nobody's ever heard of. So I don't think this is a real game. I think this is just like a bit, like all Devolver things, because they have like 10 games that are slated to release this year. .emu, I'm guessing this is going to be Ninja Gaiden, Dreamhaven, Wildgate, Embark, it's 100% Arc Raiders. Enhance, these are the people behind Tetris Effect. It will most likely be something new, but if they did a sequel to Tetris Effect Connected, that would be fucking sick. It would be my best in show, hands down. Epic Games, probably an ad partner for Fortnite. Focused Entertainment, it's about time they probably show Toxic Commando again. It's been 2 years, and it's supposed to release this year. I think everyone's forgotten about this game. Frontier, I genuinely don't know what these guys could show off apart from some DLC for one of their games like Planet Coaster 2 or some shit. Funcom is probably doing some stuff for Dune Awakening. IO Interactive have 2 unnamed games in development that they're publishing, as well as Mind's Eye. Hitman would be a safe bet, but Kane and Lynch 3 would be like the funniest thing ever. I Am 8-Bit Presents, I don't really know. They might show off Petal Runner, but they could also announce a new game that they're helping publish. Cacao, Arcade Chronicles, I would say. Kinetic, these guys are the guys behind Phasmophobia, so maybe a full release date for this one. Kuro Games are probably working on something new. Level Infinite, I would say maybe Exoborn. Magic the Gathering, I don't know, more cards that destroy the meta. Megabit, probably going to show Thick as Thieves again. MetaQuest, who cares? Mundfish, I'm pretty sure these guys are moving into publishing instead of developing games, so maybe a new game that they're helping publish, but they could also come out with Atomic Heart 2. I think the first one did well enough that they would be able to make a sequel. NCSoft, I know Aeon 2 was just announced, so probably that, although my dark horse pick would probably be Guild Wars 3. Neki has to be Spine. This game has had no news for a while as far as I know. I think it'd only be logical that they show this off because I'm pretty sure it's meant to come out this year. NeoWiz, almost certainly something Liza P related. Netmarble, I think that these are the people behind the Game of Thrones game, like the King's Road. So I don't know what they could possibly have next, probably just another mobile game. Nexon, they are the studio publishing the stuff Embark develops, but I reckon they also have something else to show that's probably going to be First Descendant related. Niantic, who fucking cares? Nintendo Switch 2, I don't think we'll see any new first-party Nintendo games here. This is probably solely because some upcoming games will just be on the Switch 2. Nuverse, I have no idea what these guys could possibly show. I thought they got shut down. PM Studios, maybe the Ukulele remaster, maybe that's making it to the main show. Pearl Abyss, Jesus Christ, Crimson Desert is still not out yet. It's probably that, but I really want it to be Dokkaevi. I'm not convinced that that game is ever coming out, but it could be that. PlayStack, what I want is some kind of Balatro content, but what we'll probably get is one of the 4 or 5 upcoming games that PlayStack is publishing. PlayStation, better be Astrobot on PC or I'm going to tear them a new one. I had to reverse image search this image to find out who this logo belonged to. This is Raw Power Games. They have not made anything other than an undeveloped project that is made in Unreal 5. And it's probably going to be an RPG of some kind. Razer is almost definitely an ad partner. Sega, probably the new Sonic racing game, although we haven't heard much about the modern remakes of their classics, like they were doing a modern remake of Taxi Driver and stuff like that. So there's a chance it's also those. I'm kind of hoping to be those. Soft Rains, these guys are probably just working on a new IP. Square Enix, there is a chance they unveil Kingdom Hearts 4 and then we won't see it again for another 10 years. Steam, they're a partner because they'll probably have an event on the store to coincide with the showcases. I don't think this is a thing. Supermassive, probably a better look at Directive 8020. Techland is going to be another look, probably gameplay of the new Dying Light game. Xbox have their own whole showcase and we'll probably see, Fable and Perfect Dark and stuff like that. As for something new that they have to reveal, I'm thinking we might be ready for a classic IP revival. And I'm thinking Spyro is next. But my runner-up would be as a game that we don't know about yet is a new Crash game. I think Toys for Bob are probably almost ready to reveal whatever they've been working on. X Solar, I don't know much about these guys. I know that they have an indie publishing label, but they're also just like a payment system for mobile games, so they might just be an ad partner. Yacht Club, this is a toss-up between Mina the Hollower and finally revealing the new Shovel Knight game. I don't know which one to pick. Maybe Shovel Knight? Alright, and that's all of them. We will check back in the next video to see how I did with predictions. And that is all I have for you today. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing if you're new. Also stick around because next week I will be doing my usual Summer Games Fest thing and I'm excited to talk about some games. Let me know what you're most excited to see. Thanks to my YouTube members, Controlled Killer, Yellow, Melodia, and Jingles. Absolute legends. If you want to put that little bit of extra support my way, you can currently do that via a YouTube membership. Perks are on the screen. I also have a community Discord that is free to enter. Look, that's all I have today, folks. I will see you all very soon. See ya.